Okay, we're ready, Mr. Mayor.
This is what, okay. Welcome, everyone. It's Monday, November 10th, 2025. It's time for our regularly scheduled city council meeting. Clerk and certified meeting notice, please.
This meeting has been noticed in accordance with Idaho Code 74-204.
Call roll, please.
Councilmember Jorgensen? Here. Councilmember Page?
Here.
Councilmember Rasmussen?
Here.
Thank you. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item V, changes to the agenda. Okay, I don't see any. We'll move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve the consent agenda as it's written.
I would second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, clerk call roll.
Councilmember Jorgensen?
Yes.
Councilmember Page?
Yes.
Councilmember Rasmussen?
Yes.
Thank you. Item F, we have no special business. Item G1, this is an action item, subdivision 2025-4. Is this a hearing, public hearing? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. What we'll do, the applicant will have an opportunity to present the application to the council, after which our staff will report. After that, I'll open the public hearing and we'll take any testimony. At the conclusion of that testimony, the applicant will have an opportunity to answer questions or provide any rebuttal if that's necessary. I'll close the public hearing then and turn it to the council for deliberation. Does anybody need to declare a conflict on this issue?
No.
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 Okay. I won't be voting tonight because a tie is not possible, but Mr. Louis is a family friend, particularly of my son's. So just wanted to put that on the record. So with that, who's representing the applicant tonight?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
What do I do this side?
I don't know. Because then you have to share the Zoom, right?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Good evening. I want to start off by thanking staff and Hannah for helping us along the way with the process from when we started.
Can I interrupt you? Just need to get your name and
Sure.
address for the record.
Yep.
All
my
right,
name's,
thank you.
Nick Louie with Urban Design Build. I'm here to represent Binion Buildings LLC, and my address is 128 South Eagle Road, Suite 200. Want to start off by thanking staff and Hannah for helping us along the way. I took over this project, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, and it had been through this process before I started. So she's been a great help, and I want to start off by thanking her. I'm here to present Amigo subdivision off of Adams Street. My architect is here, Glenn Walker with ADP. David Evans and Associates was our civil engineer on this project, and I'm Nick Lilly with Urban Design Build, and the property owners Binion Buildings LLC.
Dave Evans, no relation.
David, yeah. Yeah.
Different one.
Okay, to give you an overview of the project, the site's at 3933 and 3921 Adams Street in Garden City. It's consists of plus or minus 0.56 acres in the R3 mixed use residential zoning. We are proposing 12 lots. There's 11 buildable residential lots and 1 common lot. And we are also proposing a mix of units. So in this development, there'll be 1 single family, 1 duplex, 1 triplex, and 1 fiveplex. We are proposing 27 total parking spaces. That includes 22 in garages and 5 guest stalls. We also are proposing 3,200 square feet of shared qualified open space. The purpose and intent of this project is we hope to redevelop 2 underutilized parcels at 3921 and 3933 North Adams. At one point, I believe there were some trailers or sheds or something on the property. Since then, it has been scraped and it's just an empty lot now. We hope to create attainable homeownership within a walkable infilled neighborhood. And we hope to support Garden City's comprehensive plan for compact, sustainable growth. And we want to integrate thoughtful architecture and landscaping that preserves neighborhood scale. So the site is located between Shinnon Boulevard and the Boise River. It's close to walking distance to Veterans Memorial Park and local services and gas stations. There's our full infrastructure stubbed at the front of the property. And we believe it's a strategic infill location supporting smart urban redevelopment. To go over the site plan and plot layout with you, like I mentioned before, we're proposing 11 residential lots and 1 common lot. So each townhome will be on its own lot. The minimum lot size is 1,350 square feet, but the average lot size is 2,030 square feet. We meet all the required setbacks for this zoning, 20-foot front, 15 rear, or 0.5 side. We are proposing a private drive access off of Adams Street, paved with a hammerhead at the end for fire access and turnaround. And we are proposing on-site stormwater management with seepage beds for storm drainage. Want to go over the architectural renderings with you real quick. So when we first started this project, the way we designed the buildings was consistent throughout. So we had continuity throughout the development. Each unit looked the same, and that's the way we liked it. Then we started digging into the code, and the code reads, you have to have variations per unit, and a mix of unit type. So, we were kind of scratching our head on how to do that. We met the mix of unit types with the single family, the duplex, triplex, and fiveplex. And then when it came to the variations, we thought the only way, we met with DR, and they're the ones that recommended, hey, we think we want to see some variations within the units. So we sat down as a team and we started, thinking, okay, we can make each individual unit a different color, or change garage door colors, or change front door colors. And that was a kind of a big discussion item with P&Z. Ultimately, what they recommended last month was we work with staff to make sure it works for everybody. Because what we would like to see, obviously we want to do what's best for the community and what Garden City likes, but we like more of a consistent continuity look and not kind of a circus look. We don't want to have different colors everywhere. So in what you're seeing in this rendering is we have different front doors. And what I printed for you guys, all our garage colors, the garage doors are the same. So there's not so much color variation. And then each unit has a slight color and stucco difference, between the duplex, triplex, and single family. So that's a work in progress, and we hope to take care of that with staff. So in the architectural renderings, we have a blend of architectural variety and unique entrances from one another. We have variation in facade materials for visual interest. So we're using stucco, tongue and groove siding, board and batten, and stone. We have an emphasis on privacy and outdoor living. So each unit will have an outdoor patio, balcony area, and then again, we have a blend of unit types. So community amenities and open space. So the development is required to provide at least 4 Class A amenities, or 2 Class B amenities, or 2 Class A and 1 Class B amenity, or 1 Class C amenity. This development, we're proposing 3 Class A amenities, which consist of smart locks and thermostats for all the units, secure locker packages for deliveries, and then an open grassy area of at least 40 by 10 feet or 400 square feet in total. Those are our 3 Class A's. And then our Class B amenity, we are proposing a community garden, and that's located on the west side of the development, right to the west of the guest parking. And then open space for any new development within 3 or more dwellings, a minimum of 80 square feet of private usable open space shall be provided for the benefit of each dwelling. And we meet that. We have, I think, 1,057. I think it says a little small. Okay, so as far as the landscaping goes, originally we submitted our plan to staff and they came back with recommendations. Let me see if I can get that. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. They came back with recommendations, and we have since corrected all the landscaping requirements, and we think we're in compliance. So we added some street trees along Adams Street. And then on the guest parking right here, we added a tree on the north and a tree on the south. We added some additional trees on the west side property line here, and then added evergreen plantings. So what this is going to do is hopefully in the future prevent the lights from these cars that are parking going into this development to the west. So infrastructure and access. So again, we are proposing a private drive off North Adams Street that's going to be paved. We are also proposing to connect to municipality water, sewer, and irrigation and utilities. We meet the ACHD standards for the turning radius and fire access. We had presented this to the fire chief and he signed off and said everything looked great. Again, we're proposing on-site stormwater catch basins, and so no off-site discharge will happen except along Adams Street on the curb and gutter there. This property, a corner of it, if you look here where it's highlighted kind of red, just this, that would be the southeast corner, is in the floodplain. We are proposing to lift our foundations 2 feet above base flood elevation to eliminate flood insurance throughout the whole community. And, you know, that way if FEMA decides to change their flood map in the future, these residents will be out of it and be safe. We are also providing pedestrian circulation to all the amenities. And this was a comment that design review recommended that we took to heart and redesigned our plan. So we have concrete sidewalks that run east-west here. And then we have a sidewalk that runs north-south right here. That way, the people that live within the development can get to the mailboxes and can get to the gardens, you know, without walking on asphalt. And it's a distinct difference between asphalt and concrete. So to kind of go over the code compliance summary. So we are under the density, the max density. So we're proposing 11 units and it can support up to 12.8. We are greater than the open space requirement. We're proposing 3,200 square feet. We meet the minimum parking of 27 stalls. We meet all the setback requirements. the height requirements and the FEMA requirements. So community benefits. We hope this infill housing aligns with the comprehensive plan, or it does align with the comprehensive plan. We hope it strengthens the neighborhood diversity and housing options by providing different unit types. This community is in walkable proximity to services and the green belt. You know, it's a great location if you ride your bike or like to walk the green belt. The streetscape and landscape improvements enhance the public realm. And we hope to expand Garden City's tax basis through efficient land use. This was another big discussion item that I want to share with you guys, and there's actually two of them. So I'll go over these real quick. The public access easement, so on the south side of our development, I believe there's a transportation or public access easement where staff or the city wanted a 12-foot wide easement along the south of the property line with a 10-foot sidewalk that has lighting. And that's located where you see the red here. The issue we have with this is the subdivision to the west, River Place subdivision, it dead ends into their parcel. So this easement or walkway pathway would go to nowhere. We have reached out to that development at River Place to see if we can do some type of joint use sidewalk going north-south, and we have not got a response. We've made several attempts, it just hasn't gone anywhere. And so on the east side of our property right here, we had talked to Damon Dixon, who owns this parcel, and he's proposing these two units, which I believe this lot split got approved through Garden City. So if we were to do this public access easement on the south of our property, it would be landlocked in our opinion. You can't go any further west this way, and you can't really go east because he's proposing these two units. You know, we think that would it would cause a privacy issue, and us as the applicant, we just don't think it's a good idea. And I believe the feedback we got from planning and zoning, they didn't think it was a good idea, but of course we want to do what's best and what's right for Garden City. With that, do you guys have any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Louis? Very good. We'll see what comes next, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Yeah, I want to mention one more thing. Sorry. With the new updated code, there was something about lumens for outdoor lighting. And that really got everybody thinking, and even staff was unsure. So I believe it said that any outdoor lighting can't be over 260 lumens, I believe. The problem we had with that is our lighting engineer said, hey, you can't get an exterior fixture under 260 lumens. So when we presented that to planning and zoning, they recommended, hey, we understand the code might be not clear, but they recommended to work with staff and clear that up and find something that works for everybody. So I
Okay.
mentioned that.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
That's okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I thank Mr. Louis for his presentation, and so I'm just going to hone in on certain components of the application instead of providing a full staff report. The application materials that are in your packet are on pages 39 through 124. Certainly, there are additional items that are included in the full record that are available through links. But I wanted to let you know that this application originally came in as a planned unit development. And a planned unit development is a tool which allows for waivers of code if the development can demonstrate that it produces a better product, a more desirable product. As the applicant team worked with Ms. Veal and the city through design review, they were able to achieve code compliance under a straight subdivision. And the remainder of the application materials came in shortly before the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so the first thing I'd like to point out to you is on page 64 is where the recommended decision document starts, and the conditions starting on page 73. There are certain conditions that are highlighted because of the timing. Ms. Veal wanted to make sure that the staff recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission included all of the conditions that would ensure that this be a strictly code compliant application under the subdivision. And the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation includes all of those conditions, but the highlighted ones, now that we've had time to go back and review the application for code compliance, should you want, could be removed. I don't think they hurt anything if you leave them in there because it's already been reviewed for code compliance, but that's the reason that there are those highlighted conditions in your recommended, or the Planning and Zoning recommended decision document to you tonight. The second thing that I would like to call out, I didn't have it on my list to discuss with you tonight, but Mr. Louis is correct. We're working with the new code. It's the first time it's really coming through now, and there is that discussion talking about lumens. My read of it is that it's a list of how to get to dealing with light trespasses versus a very strict, you must do and different matters. And the Planning and Zoning Commission agreed with that, is that the specific lumens are one of the list of things that somebody might do to try to achieve not having light trespass on the adjacent properties. And so that is considered to be code compliant in the draft decision that you have before you tonight. And then Mr. Louis did bring up probably one of the bigger items for discussion. The Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend that the adopted plan, original town site circulation network plan microstreet not be required. And the reason for that, I will bring up Mr. Louis, since I can't get the one that's in the staff report, which might be a little bit better to look at. And that is on page 59 of your staff report. There's a couple of aerials. And so what happens is, let's call it to the west. This property here does have, as already explained, a recently approved subdivision, and that circulation plan has, if you see the cursor, I will call it a north-south requirement for a microstreet, as well as an east-west requirement. And when this application came through, they were only required to do the north-south. And so there isn't the requirement at the east-west that would connect into this property. And there's fairly new development that would connect through to 39th Street. And so it really is constrained on two sides. And as the applicant has noted, they have noted to staff as well that they've been trying to work with that adjacent property and just not heard back. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission did not recommend that micro street for pedestrian use be required in this application. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention was what the Planning and Zoning Commission referred to as kind of those busy architectural renderings. Code does require that the entrances are distinct. And certainly the applicant interpreted with what they've shown tonight. But the requirement is that there's distinct entrances that can be done through paint, design, or materials. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend keeping that requirement in and just having the applicant work to more meet their desire while still meeting the code's requirement. And last but not least, staff wants to just point out that there are 0-foot setbacks, and that can get a little bit tricky as it goes through the building process, because we get these wonderful renders here at a high level, and then as it gets more and more refined, townhomes are required to have separations all the way through the property line, including the roof lines. And so any eaves that are overhanging can be tricky. Staff would suggest if there are eaves overhanging onto common areas, that the more appropriate way to do that would to be make sure that the eaves are within the property lines, and then any common areas have the easement versus trying to have an easement for the eaves. But where there might be walls with an eave over the side, you just can't do that. And so that's just a public notice to the applicant to be thinking through that at this stage. The city council is a deciding body. You do have a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission in your packet. Again, should you want to reduce some of those conditions, the highlighted ones have already been verified by staff as being compliant, but it doesn't hurt to leave them in that they're already compliant. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Questions? I don't see any.
Thank you.
With that, I'll open the public hearings for SUB FY 2025-0004. I don't think we have anybody signed up. Okay, okay, nobody signed up here on site. Thank you. Okay. We've got a few folks online. It looks like our technology is working tonight. Does anybody online want to testify regarding this application? So use the raise your hand tool in the Zoom. I don't see any. So with that, I'll close the public hearing on SUB FY 2025-0004 and turn it to Mr. Louie to close it out. Do you have any final comments you want to make to the council? Any response to the staff report?
Yeah, our objective is just to work with staff and, the city to make a nice project. We believe it's a well thought out, well designed project. We spent a lot of time changing renderings, changing the site plan to get it to where it's at today. And, as a team, we all thought, hey, this is going to be a great project. So we hope you guys think the same.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, with that, it's properly before the council. Council President, you want to lead a discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll go ahead and go first. I just want to thank Mr. Louie and the project team for really examining the code closely. I know there has been some changes, which has probably led to confusion, and just appreciate your kind words toward the staff. We're all going through this together. It's new and it's necessary, but it's unfamiliar. So thanks for your patience, and as is the case typically with these preliminary plats, there's a lot of undecided things still, and as a council, we anticipate flexibility going forward, and interesting about the lumens. So thanks for bringing that to our attention. With me as a council, as far as my own thoughts on this, and nothing jumps out that hasn't already been addressed or mentioned as compliant as amended. So I would be in support of this. Can Teresa?
First of all, I want to echo your thoughts. Thank you for, your presentation and thank you for coming before us tonight. I would, I'm supportive of it definitely as well. And I would just add that we, actually take those conditions out of the conditional, document. Yeah, that we would just remove those. They don't need there. They were there for the PUD piece of the application, so we don't need those. I think that we should just take them out. They're cumbersome now.
Well, I will echo some of the comments you've heard this evening. I want to applaud you for, I think, including a potential community garden is very creative and I appreciate that. And I also appreciate the challenge of creating distinct visual solutions to the property. And again, I hope that you stick closely to this palette. As anybody that's heard me from the dais knows, I am very opposed to any more gray on Adams Street. And I find that the color combinations and the unique entrance solutions very interesting. And overall, I did have a real quick question, and it is not a major influence or decision making. How many bedrooms does a single family unit have? Is it a 3-bedroom, 2-bath?
3-bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
3-bed.
And regarding removing the language, I'm inclined to agree with Councilmember Rasmussen. If it's unnecessary, I think to eliminate confusion, it's probably better to remove the language from the findings of fact.
With that, what's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
with regard to, let's do this. SUB FY 2025-0004. I move to approve or I guess I should say sustain the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission and in agreement with my fellow council members up here that we go ahead and just remove the special conditions that are apparently at this point moved and approve this project along with the findings of fact and conclusions of law.
And I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, clerk call roll.
Councilmember Page,
Yes.
Councilmember Rasmussen,
Yes.
Councilmember Jorgensen.
Yes.
Application is approved.
Thank you.
Go forth and build.
Thank you very much.
Get it.
Do you want this for the record?
I have my record.
Okay.
I release this.
I took notes on this one, so we probably don't want this one.
Sorry, Councilmember Jacobs isn't here. Mr. Louis is an accomplished landscape contractor as well. So in fact, he extended my patio.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to know, can you still do more pull-ups?
No, that was a different guy.
Oh, what's the name?
It was,
Don't.
it was Jeff Doan.
Oh, Jeff Doan.
Right.
Thank you. A terrible memory.
Yeah, no, you did good. Remember the pull-up thing. So anyway, and I don't do too many pull-up contests.
Yeah.
But okay, next item would be item G2. This is a third reading. Little update from Mr. Wadhams.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is third reading for this motorized watercraft ordinance that we've been talking about the last month or so. A couple of housekeeping matters. My memorandum starts on page 124 of your packet. I do have a clerical error, just for the record. I want to fix on page 125 of the packet. I had my legal intern draft this memorandum and I was fact checking his citations today and I found one that he got wrong. So just for the record, on page 125, where it talks about legal authority to enact the ordinance, he references Idaho Code 493229. That is incorrect. The Idaho Code that authorizes the city to regulate rivers in their jurisdiction is Idaho Code 67-7031, subsection 25. So 7031, subsection 25. Just if anybody's listening to this recording in years in the future. The second reading, we had a couple questions. I had a couple questions from Council President Page. I wanted to touch on those briefly before the third reading. Council President Page wanted to know what the definition of Boise River is. Boise River is defined in the Garden City Code in Title 8 only. So in Title 8, it's defined in 8782 and 8884A2 to be a 102-mile long tributary of the Snake River. So my recommendation for this third reading, because that is only in Title 8, nowhere else in the Garden City Code, that we just add the definition to the ordinance, and I'll give you the specific reference here in a minute to say that that's the definition. Now, I also think maybe it's prudent based on the Council President's questions last time that we specifically say that Boise River does not include any of its tributaries and does not include ponds or any other tributaries. And so if there are any questions about whether HOAs can have motorized watercraft in their ponds, the answer is yes, that would not be regulated by this. So then there were other questions about some misdemeanors and whether this should stay as an infraction or be amended or switched up to a misdemeanor. I have talked to our Chief of Police, Corey Stambaugh. The police department, he and Lieutenant Domini believe that this should be kept as an infraction and not a misdemeanor. The misdemeanors under the Idaho Code are 67 70 16, 67 70 17, 67 70 25, 67 70 26, 67 70 27. Those are basically negligent operation of watercraft. If you leave the scene, you cause an accident on your watercraft and you leave the scene, that's a misdemeanor. If you interfere with other people's navigation, that can be a misdemeanor. And if you are boating in a restricted area, that can also be a misdemeanor under the Idaho Code. So my legal recommendation, based on talking to the police department, is that the council keep this as an infraction. Obviously, the council has discretion if the council would like to change this up to a misdemeanor. But my recommendation is to keep it as an infraction. Add that definition to the Boise River right in this, because it's not in Title 8, it's in Title 4. And then I would recommend a third reading of this ordinance as amended. The definition, just for the record, would be on page 127 of your packet. And it would just be for the purposes of this chapter, Boise River shall be defined as what we just discussed. So that is my recommendation, and I stand for questions. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wadums, thank you for the attention to detail on this. Walk me through the idea of not having this be a misdemeanor that we could, under your discretion, charge as an infraction if restitution is not necessary, rather than having it have to be reviewed each time for necessary restitution.
Well, Council President, that's a great question. I think anytime there would be potential restitution, I think the county prosecutor, Jan Bennett, would charge a misdemeanor. This is not for whenever there's, if there's property damage or injury to somebody, that's not this code. This code is just have it being a motorized watercraft in the Boise River. If there's something on top of that, like injury, property damage, getting in somebody else's way, leaving the scene of an accident, those are all misdemeanors under the Idaho Code. So this particular municipal code infraction would not have any restitution issues that would be covered under the state code. Obviously, just generally from a high level, infractions are strict liability offenses. People do not have a right to a jury trial, only a judge trial. They do not have a right to a public defender. Every time a municipality or the state kicks it up to a misdemeanor, then all these constitutional rights are in play. Right to an attorney if you cannot afford one, you get a public defender. Right to a jury trial with 6 people of your peers. It takes all day instead of like an hour. And so all these other constitutional rights are at play because it becomes changes from a civil offense to a criminal offense. An infraction is a civil offense. I think so that would be the equivalent of a speeding ticket or a following too close ticket or texting while driving ticket. So that's my take on it. Obviously, like I said, the council does have the discretion to make it a misdemeanor. Just when you do so, all those constitutional rights become implicated.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, what's the pleasure of council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move for a third reading by title only of ordinance 1058-25, noting amended statutory authority to Idaho Code 67-7031 sub 25, and a modification to, or adopting the the definition as written into this proposed ordinance, essentially that does not include ponds as a Boise River, under, that ponds don't fall under this definition of the Boise River.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, clerk call the roll, please.
Councilmember Rasmussen?
Yes.
Councilmember Jorgensen?
Yes.
Councilmember Page?
Yes.
Third reading ordinance 1058-25, an ordinance of the City of Garden City, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, adopting new chapter 21, prohibited acts on the Boise River, title 4, public health and safety, prohibiting motorized watercraft, approving a summary of the ordinance and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Item G3 would be a motion to adopt and publish ordinance 1058-25.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt and publish ordinance 1058-25.
I would second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, the clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Jorgensen?
Yes.
Councilmember Page?
Yes.
Councilmember Rasmussen?
Yes.
As amended.
As amended. Let the record reflect the motion and the second. Incorporated as amended as stated by our council president. Okay, item G4, resolution 1226-25. Mr. Wadums, you had a couple of comments on this one.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, and maybe Ms. Thornborough would like to comment when I'm done with my presentation. This is really a request from Ms. Thornborough and Development Services and the Public Works Director. So I can go through my legal review and then maybe Ms. Thornborough has a factual review or additional thoughts. My legal memorandum starts on page 131 of your packet. The proposed resolution starts on page 135 of your packet. And then the proposed policy that is attached to the resolution starts on page 139 of your packet. And what is this? This is about how much delegation of power you want to give your staff is really what it's about. Because currently, the way the Idaho Code is set up, that all easements go to the city council for approval. We're talking about easements for pedestrian use, public use, emergency use, any kind of easements, whether the city is the grantor or the grantee, currently go to the city council. And that's the way most cities in the state do it. I know specifically, I reached out to Meridian, I heard back from Meridian, and they said every single easement goes to the city council for their approval. And that's the way we do it right now. A lot of these things are on your consent agenda. So when you're reviewing your packet, you look at the consent agenda, and if you don't have any problems with that particular easement, it just gets approved as part of the consent agenda. And then if there are some issues or if you want to discuss, you can pull it off the consent and put it on the regular or the special agenda. Ms. Thornborough came to me recently and said, you know, do we really need to do that? Can staff execute easements that have already been in front of council or the decision maker? And we talked last week that these easements that are conditioned as like a condition of approval or a condition of a project, sometimes that condition is ordered by the city council, but not always. Sometimes that approval or that condition is required by planning and zoning, although we talked about how that's probably unlikely. But oftentimes these conditions, these easement conditions, are from staff as part of the design review process. Right now, our design review process is we have consultants. They make a recommendation to staff, specifically Ms. Thornborough, and then she approves the design review, subject to some conditions, which can be an easement, a pedestrian easement, for example. So we're talking about delegating, the recommendation is delegating to either Mr. Schmidt or Ms. Thornborough certain easements. One, only when the city is the grantee. I think that the code specifies that whenever the city is conveying any property rights to somebody and that property is the city's property, that has to come specifically from the council. So that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is when the city is the the grantee, so we're receiving an easement or we're receiving an easement on behalf of the public, like a public access easement or something. And the decision maker, and whether that's city council, planning and zoning, or staff on a design review, they're just gonna authorize the execution so we can get it recorded in the recorder's office. I think, and what this memorandum says and what this policy and this resolution attempt to say is that in certain circumstances, narrow circumstances, you can delegate that authority to staff. And this specifically says certain easements can go to Ms. Thornborough for her approval so it can get recorded. And water sewer easements that have been previously looked at by the decision maker, Colin, Mr. Schmidt, can just sign off on that and get it recorded without it having to come back to you as potentially a second time. So really the issue from a policy standpoint is how comfortable this council is in delegating some of your authority away to your staff. Currently, the council has delegated some authority to planning and zoning, obviously, land use matters. City council has delegated some authority to staff regarding design review and so forth. So what is your comfort level, or what is the sweet spot on delegating more authority to staff? I think that the council has discretion to do exactly what this resolution says. I think the council could deviate from it if you wanted to give them less authority or potentially more authority. But that's what this is about. It's an attempt to streamline the process, make it faster, make it so you're not having to look at easements twice, once on the front end and then once on the back end. And so it's really just to streamline the process, make it faster for Ms. Thornborough so she does not have to come back to the electeds and get a second head nod. So that's really what this is all about. Getting into specifics then, just make sure I cover everything. Looking at my memo, it's supposed to be specific that we're talking about prior approvals or conditions by city council or decision makers. So when you look at the resolution, there's a couple places, for example, on page 135, the last whereas, that should say when it's previously been required or approved by city council or a decision maker to cover those other scenarios. And so there's another amendment I would propose on page 136 under scope of delegation. Again, that'd be number 3, where it says, well, this is right here where it says special use permit. Ms. Thornborough pointed out that that's Idaho code terminology, special use permit. What we call it is a conditional use permit. So my proposed amendment to that would just be change it from special use permit to conditional use permit, because that's the vernacular we use. And then the other amendments are just to make it clear that we're talking about prior easements that have been looked at by either city council or a decision maker. But yeah, it's really a policy question from there. Those are the legal recommendations. Ms. Thornborough maybe has some follow-up. For example, she can speak better than I can about on page, for example, page 137, it talks a pre-approval requirement. That was Ms. Thornborough's idea, and that says that if we think there's an easement somewhere on somebody's property, but we've never been able to find a recorded easement, that staff could go ahead and get it recorded without having to bring it back to you. And so on page 137, I guess I should say that we're talking about certain things. We're talking about staff approving or executing easements when there has been pre-approval requirement, or whether, and that, well, excuse me, it's not. Let me get my reference. What she can speak to. Missed my reference. Okay, page 136. It says existing publicly used facilities, and that's what I was trying to reference. When we think there's an easement, but when it's never been recorded, staff wants the ability to clean that up without having to go back to the electeds. And that's on page 136, and that's existing publicly used facilities. And then the other two times where staff could execute without having to come back to you are implementation of adopted plans or development approval conditions. And again, we're just talking about when the city is the grantee, and we're talking about either a water sewer easement, a greenbelt pathway easement, a sidewalk multi-use pathway easement, a public pedestrian access easement, and an Idaho transportation right-of-way maintenance easement. Those are the ones that staff would like to be delegated the authority to execute on your behalf once you, after either you or the decision makers have already taken a look at it. And did I get that correct, Ms. Thornborough?
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, just to add to what Mr. Wadhams said, the idea is to find efficiencies, both for staff, but also for the applicants. And what happens 99% of the time is you have an application like you saw tonight, and in the decision document, there's a list of easements that they will be required to provide. And that could be, like we discussed, that they didn't need to do tonight, but that pedestrian easement that's based on pre-existing adopted plans. And then there may be water and sewer lines, et cetera, that's looked at through the decision process. And then when those come back as the applicant is refining their subdivision, let's just look at subdivisions for now. Then staff brings those easements back to you on pre-approved templates that the city attorney has already reviewed. And then they're usually, in my tenure, I don't remember any being pulled off of the consent agenda. So I will say usually on the consent agenda, and then they go for signature and recordation. Staff was thinking, since you've already said they need those easements and they're on template documents that aren't being amended, that have already been reviewed by the city attorney, that those could be turned around a lot quicker. We did have the Starbucks off of Maple Grove really kind of get beat around for about a month trying to hit the sweet spot. And we could have given them a straight C of O a month earlier if we could have moved quicker. But to be able to hit the city council meetings. And then there's also staff loading where we're doing the memo. And then we're processing it for signature. It's not a ton of work, but it's still chipping away at the time. But I think more importantly, it's how long does somebody need to wait for a CFO? With that being said, as Mr. Wadhams noted, there are some instances where the city council isn't the decision maker on some of these. It may be design review or planning and zoning commission. Staff would suggest not to have a staff level decision that city council doesn't have the opportunity to review, be something that could be designated to staff. But design review and conditional use permits are brought to you on those notice of decisions. So you do have the opportunity to review to make sure that those easements are appropriately identified, and then they would go through and use those pre-approved templates, should you agree with this approach. And then Mr. Wadhams did also note areas where there's a pre-existing situation. What I was thinking is Mr. Schmidt has had situations where they've identified water lines that don't have easements on them. And instead of coming to you to ask permission to make sure that those water lines are covered, I was thinking perhaps that might be another situation that the council might be comfortable granting Mr. Schmidt, the Public Works Director, authority to say, we need an easement here. Again, there is that granting of authority to staff, and so staff does understand if that's not the direction you move. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. We have the matter before us. I think between the two staff members, we got a pretty thorough explanation of what the request is. So, thoughts?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the spirit of what this resolution intends to do. And as I engaged with the candidates in this most recent election, resoundingly, I heard, and including from Mayor-elect Jacobs, a desire to move quicker, to be able to move quicker, to streamline processes. And I can see that this is something that accomplishes that. and just want to express my appreciation for that, especially in the example I heard about a 30-day wait on a certificate of occupancy. That's shocking when you think about what a business earns in a month and the time value of that. That said, I am reticent to pass this resolution without Councilmember Jacobs, who's our mayor-elect, weighing in on this grant of authority to staff. I would be much more comfortable pushing this to a date certain of November 24th. That's where I stand. I'd like to hear from my colleagues.
I would, I would echo your comments. I think it is important and mayor-elect should have the ability to vote on this resolution. I'm very interested in improving efficiency as long as we don't create a trade-off in efficacy. And there's certain things that I am reluctant to hand off, and specifically because of the visibility and the concern. If we have council member elect here and Bill, as you're door knocking, and certainly in public forums, when we hear public testimony, one of the biggest sensitivities that we have in this community centers around the Greenbelt. And so I would be reluctant to have that specific easement be delegated. I think that that's critical enough that we hear enough from the public that as the council, we should be highly aware of any easements to the Greenbelt and pathways that we know our residents, business members, and other people that come through the community have a high level of interest and sensitivity to. So overall, I love the concept. That is the one topic that I think I would be reluctant to delegate. And again, I would second your concern and request to move to a date certain to allow Mayor-elect Jacobs to participate in the vote.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, based on some of my conversations with Mayor-elect Jacobs during the past month or so, I really feel like he would be very supportive of this, but I think that's completely fair to let him have a say himself about that. But I'm still going to offer that I really appreciate Director Thornborough and Director Schmidt and Mr. Wadhams for working on this, because I completely think that this kind of stuff is, this may be a small one to start, but I would imagine that there's a lot of other opportunity like this. So I'm just thoroughly in support of this effort, and I do think it makes sense. I had to convince myself there for a minute, but I had to convince myself that's probably the right thing to do to let Mayor-elect Jacobs weigh in on this. So, thank you.
President of the council, Mr. Mayor, I did have another question I didn't see cited. I heard Mr. Wadham's report on the city of Meridian. Do we know what the city of Boise or the city of Eagle, do they delegate this, or are they bringing each one in front of the council?
Mayor, Council President, Councilmember Jorgensen, I sent out a question to my municipal attorney listserv. And what I can say is only Meridian responded. Sometimes when I send that out to all these city attorneys across the state, sometimes I get a bunch of replies and sometimes I get nothing. I get crickets. On this one, Kurt Starman, who's an assistant city attorney out in Meridian, responded. He said, number one, we run all easements through our city council. Number two, I think you can do what you're fixing to do. As long as it's only on easements when the city is the grantee, and I completely agree with him, because there's we don't want this, we don't want giving away city property delegated to staff. I don't think we could, even if we wanted to. So this is just when the city's a grantee. Nobody else responded, council member. It was just Meridian. Meridian said they run all easements through the council, but they didn't see any reason why we couldn't give this a try and see how it goes. And
Thank you.
I would agree with that.
Mr. Mayor and Mr. Wadums, just, I would note, just for the record, that in your legal memo, one of the decisions you cite to one of the authorities is Two Rivers versus the City of Eagle.
Right.
And so I think we could have some assurance that this is a vetted policy. I appreciate the work that went into that.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with it. Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, sounds like there's a consensus. Somebody want to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move to table this agenda item to a date certain of November 24th, 2025.
I would second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? I think we can just go all in favor. Aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. That concludes the business on our agenda tonight. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? We stand adjourned.